When I was 23, I worked at this little frozen yogurt spot in Oak Hollow, Tennessee. Small town, tiny strip mall, barely any foot traffic unless the high school across the street let out, or there was a movie rush from the old theater nearby. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and gave me something to do while I figured my life out. That's where I met Tori. She was 21, had this punky platinum bob and the loudest laugh you'd ever hear in a 2-mile radius. From the jump, we clicked hard. She reminded me of the sister I never had, sarcastic, fearless, and always down to split a tub of cookie dough straight out the freezer. We synced up our shifts whenever we could, especially the night ones, which were usually quiet except for the occasional rush of teens who treated froyo toppings like an art form. I was in a boring, years-long relationship at the time. One of those, we've been together since high school, so I guess we just keep going types. So while I wasn't on dating apps, Tori was deep in Tinderland. Every shift, she had a new story. Bad bios, unhinged messages, guys who said, "You up," before even saying hi. She always laughed it off, but I could tell she wanted something real. Then one night she showed me this guy. "His name's Micah," she said, shoving her phone in my face. He had this soft, artsy look, black curls, wireframe glasses, a tattoo peeking from under his shirt sleeve. I won't lie, he looked like he belonged in a moody indie film or on the cover of a poetry book. My gut reaction? Fake. Like catfish level fake. But I didn't want to rain on her vibe, so I just smiled and told her to be careful. They planned to meet the next night. I texted her around 11 to ask how it went. No answer. I figured maybe things were going well, or she just forgot. We were scheduled to work together the next evening, and I was already hyped for the tea. But she never showed up. Tori was never late. Ever. She was the kind of person who showed up early with snacks and a playlist. 15 minutes passed, then 30. I called, texted, nothing. I even walked out behind the strip mall just in case she was having car trouble. Still nothing. That's when the dread hit. I called the police. I didn't even wait for a full day, just told them something was wrong. And I was right. Her mom had already filed a missing persons report. Tori never came home from her date. It was like the air went out of the world after that. Days passed, no updates. I kept going to work like a zombie, staring at the counter where she used to stand, half hoping she'd walk in with a dumb joke and a Slurpee. I kept texting her phone like a total idiot, even though I knew deep down she was gone. After a couple weeks of silence, frustration turned to rage. I couldn't just sit there anymore. I needed to do something. So I did the dumbest, most desperate thing I could think of. I downloaded Tinder, set up a fake profile, picked some filtered selfies, gave myself a new name. I wasn't looking for dates, I was looking for him. Micah, the guy with the bookstore boy energy and curated angles. I didn't know if that was even his real name, but I remembered every detail of his face from Tori's phone. I swiped for hours, left, then boom! There he was. Same face, new name, Tyler. My blood turned cold. I swiped right instantly, then threw my phone across the room like it was a bomb. When I finally checked it again, we'd matched. And he'd messaged me. I wanted to throw up, but I played along. Sent a flirty message, made dumb small talk, pretended to laugh at his jokes. I felt disgusting, like I was wearing someone else's skin. But I kept going, because this was my shot. After 2 days of fake flirting, he asked if I wanted to get drinks. I said yes. We met at this dingy dive bar out on the edge of Greystone, the next town over. I made sure to text the location to my roommate and told her if I didn't check in every 20 minutes, call the cops. I even wore a hoodie with pepper spray in the front pocket. When I walked in, he was already there. Corner booth. Same face, same smile. It was him. Micah. Tyler. Whatever his real name was. I sat down and smiled like I wasn't screaming inside. We talked for an hour. It was painful. He tried to come off charming, but his eyes were too flat, too calculated. Every time he smiled, it looked like he was pretending to remember how humans act. I didn't mention Tori, even though her missing posters were everywhere. I wanted to see what he'd say, what he'd slip. Eventually, he asked if I wanted to come back to his place. I told him I had an early shift. As soon as I got outside, I called the detective on Tori's case. I gave them everything: screenshots, chat logs, his new name, the location, my account. I figured they'd brush me off, but they didn't. They took it seriously. A week later, I got a call. They arrested him. His real name was Shane. And after some pressure and a mountain of evidence, they got a confession. He claimed it was an accident, that things just got out of hand. But he still led them to where he'd left her. That was 2 years ago. I still work at the Froyo shop, weirdly enough. The job's the same, but I'm not. There's a part of me that broke the day she didn't come back, and it's never coming back. I see her face every time I close the shop alone at night. Every time a Tinder profile feels too smooth. Every time I hear laughter that sounds like hers. This happened a few years back, when I was 27 and dumb enough to think I had good instincts about people. His name was Eli, or at least, that's what he went by. We met on Instagram after he randomly replied to one of my stories. He wasn't a total stranger. We had a few mutuals, lived in the same city, and he was always popping up in comment sections like some low-key internet flirt. Seemed harmless enough. After a couple of flirty DMs and a few nights of texting until 2 a.m., he asked if I wanted to grab coffee. I said sure. We met at this trendy little cafe downtown in Fairview, one of those places where the baristas wear beanies in 90-degree weather and all the chairs are mismatched on purpose. Our first date? Honestly, great. Chill conversation. We clicked right away. He was funny, well-dressed, and asked questions without making it feel like a job interview. We met again a few days later for drinks, and that went even better. He kissed me goodnight, and I remember walking home thinking, wow, this might actually be something. Then came the third date. I showed up at the same cafe. I got there early, ordered a latte, and waited. And waited. 10 minutes turned into 30, then an hour, then 2. No call, no text, just nothing. I finally accepted that I'd been stood up and went home in this weird mixture of embarrassment and disbelief. But whatever. Maybe something came up, right? Nope. He vanished. Blocked me on everything. Phone, Instagram, even Venmo. Just poof. Gone. I spent the next 2 months brushing it off, telling myself I dodged a bullet. Maybe he had a girlfriend. Maybe he was a liar. Either way, he was out of my life. Until he wasn't. Around the 3-month mark, Eli started popping up again. Unblocked me on Instagram. Started watching my stories, reacting to old photos. He even sent a message like nothing happened. Hey, been thinking about you. I should have deleted it on sight. But part of me was lonely, stupid, curious. So I replied, cautiously. And that was the beginning of the worst chapter of my life. For a while, things were actually decent. He apologized, claimed he panicked, and wasn't in the right place mentally. I didn't forgive him right away, but he was persistent. Wrote this long message about how he realized I was different, how he couldn't stop thinking about me. Gross in hindsight, but back then, it worked. We started seeing each other again, slowly at first, but then it all spiraled fast. He got possessive, real fast. Started asking who I was texting, who I followed, why I hadn't posted him yet. At first it was subtle, but it snowballed. One night, I was at a friend's birthday dinner and didn't text him back for a few hours. He blew up my phone, 30 calls in one night. The next morning, he showed up outside my apartment with flowers, and rage in his eyes. That's when I tried to cut it off. I told him this wasn't working, that I needed space. He laughed in my face, said, "You don't just get to leave me like that." I blocked him again. And that's when the real stalking started. Overnight, he created new accounts, burner numbers, fake emails. I'd block one, 2 more would pop up. Then he started messaging my friends, DMing my ex, calling my job pretending to be my boyfriend. It was relentless. I got a new number, changed my passwords. Thought maybe it'd cool off. It didn't. When I started dating someone new, let's call him Drew, Eli lost his mind, started calling him. Sent him screenshots of private photos I had sent months ago. He even made a fake account pretending to be me, posting edited images with captions that made me look insane. And then, he called my boss. At this point, my job pulled me into HR. Not to reprimand me, but to tell me they were concerned. I worked in public relations for a medical startup in Portland, and my company had zero tolerance for anything that might risk their brand. They gave me a choice, get a restraining order or take a leave of absence, so I lawyered up. I saved everything, the texts, the DMS, the call logs. My job handed over security footage from the day he showed up in the parking lot pretending to be an Uber Eats driver, just to see if I'd come out. We filed for a no-contact order. He fought it. Showed up to court in a blazer like he was the damn victim. Cried. Told the judge I was unstable and trying to ruin his life. The judge wasn't buying it. The restraining order was granted. 3 years. No contact. Anywhere. But that wasn't the end. A month later, police raided his apartment. They found unprescribed pills, stolen tech, and meth in his kitchen drawer. Turns out he was already being watched for fraud, and my harassment case gave them the window they needed. Eli got sentenced to 12 years total. 7 for drug possession, 5 for stalking and harassment. I still check over my shoulder sometimes. I moved apartments, changed my route to work, started therapy. But I'll never forget the look on his face the last time I saw him in court. Smug, like he still thought he had power. Let me be clear. If someone ghosts you, let them. If someone disrespects you once, believe it. Don't make the mistake I did. Don't let someone back in just because they say they've changed. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. If your gut says something's wrong, it is. I've been in therapy for a while now, and honestly, it's saved my life. I even do a little volunteer work these days, talking with women who've been through the same kind of hell. It feels good to be on the other side. But back then, I didn't think I'd ever make it out. I was 20 when I met this guy. Let's call him Lucas. We met in a communications class at a tiny community college in Glenville, Indiana. He sat next to me on the first day and made some dumb joke about the professor's shoes. I laughed. I shouldn't have. Lucas and I hit it off fast. At first, it felt harmless. He helped me process some of the emotional baggage I was still dragging around from a past relationship. But then, almost overnight, it went from support to obsession. 2 weeks in, he gave me this flimsy little promise ring from a vending machine and said it meant we were meant to be. And I believed him. The first month was perfect. Lucas made me feel beautiful, seen. He'd call me first thing in the morning just to say good morning, walk me to class, leave little notes in my textbook. It was every stupid rom-com fantasy I'd ever had. But the fantasy didn't last. It started with little things, like he'd compliment my outfits, but only when I wore specific ones. Eventually, he started requiring them. He'd suggest greasy takeout when I wanted to eat better, and then push it until I caved. He'd make these offhand comments like, "Your friends don't get us like I do," and I started seeing them less. The first real warning sign happened during finals week. I was holed up in my dorm working on this brutal take-home exam for a biology class, headphones in, totally focused. Lucas barged in without knocking, ranting about some rally he wanted me to go to. I told him I couldn't. I had to finish the exam. He didn't argue. He just walked over, slammed my laptop closed on my fingers and said, "You're supposed to support me." And I still went. After that, the mask came off completely. If Lucas wanted sex, we had sex. Didn't matter how I felt. If he wanted fast food, I was eating fries whether I was hungry or not. If he didn't like how I dressed, guess what? I changed. One night after a long shift waiting tables at this greasy barbecue spot, I told him I was trying to eat healthier again. I'd gained like 30 pounds since we started dating. All from the junk he insisted we order every night. I asked for grilled chicken. He showed up beaming, with 2 giant bags of fried chicken, mashed potatoes, sodas, and 3 slices of pie. Before I could say anything, my manager, This loudmouth guy who always stuck his nose in where it didn't belong joked, "Damn, what's he trying to do? Fatten you up so no one else wants you?" Lucas just laughed and said, "That's the idea." I laughed too, but that line stayed with me. It stuck, like poison behind my teeth. That night, I ate everything. Not because I was hungry, but because I hated myself. That's when the binge eating really started. Even now, years later, I'm still fighting that demon. 3 years. That's how long I stayed. 3 years of slowly being erased, one boundary at a time. By the time I worked up the courage to say I wanted out, Lucas wasn't just controlling, he was dangerous. When I told him it was over, he showed up to get his stuff, then snapped. He grabbed me by the throat in the hallway of my apartment and squeezed until my vision blurred. And I still took him back a week later. After that, the violence didn't hide anymore. If I said no, he hit me. If I hesitated, he punished me. Sometimes it was sex. Sometimes it was silence. But the message was always the same. You don't get to say no. He had a special way of making his point. He'd shove me into the coat closet in our apartment, slam the door, and flip off the light. The switch was outside. I'd sit in the pitch black, knees tucked into my chest, listening to him laugh at stupid memes while I tried not to cry loud enough for him to hear. He made me afraid of the dark. At 22 years old, I was terrified of a hallway closet. If I got too happy, too confident, if a stranger at the grocery store smiled at me, if a coworker complimented my earrings, there was always a price. But the moment that finally broke me came one night when he got me drunk. Way drunk. I barely remember getting to the bedroom, but I remember waking up. I was tied to the bed. He'd gagged me. And then he did something that even in his worst moments he'd never done before. I couldn't scream. I couldn't stop him. I just remember the sound of myself crying like a child. That moment hollowed me out. I'm still scared to talk about it out loud. Emily, my best friend now, basically dragged me out. I didn't pack. I didn't plan. I left while he was at work, took what I could carry, and blocked him on everything. I never filed a report. I had no evidence. And I was still so brainwashed. I actually thought, who would believe me anyway? Lucas made me feel worthless. And he was good at it. It's been 4 years now. I'm in therapy. I'm healing. I'm not whole, but I'm trying. If you're reading this and any of it sounds familiar, leave. Now don't wait for him to turn violent. Don't wait for your breaking point. That point almost killed me. You deserve safety. You deserve peace. You deserve better. If you told me a year ago I'd be on a dating app, I would have laughed and kept scrolling through Netflix. I never saw myself as one of those people. I thought dating apps were either for supermodels or total weirdos, and I was definitely neither. But after watching 2 of my closest friends find relationships, actual relationships, from swiping, I finally caved. It was a rainy Wednesday night in Las Vista, and I downloaded the app mostly out of boredom. After a few weeks of swiping past shirtless selfies and bios that read like LinkedIn resumes, I matched with this guy named Zane. He wasn't flashy. No gym mirror pics, no CEO of nothing captions, just a warm smile, a photo of him hiking with his dog, and a goofy Halloween costume that made me laugh out loud. We clicked fast. He was funny, thoughtful, and just the right mix of nerdy and confident. Conversation wasn't forced. He actually asked me questions. And when he joked about how his homemade chili would change my life, I told him he better back that up. A few days later, we agreed to meet at a little espresso bar called Wick and Bean, a cozy, brick-walled spot tucked in an artsy part of the city. I was nervous, of course. I always am with first dates. But the second I saw him, I relaxed. Zane looked just like his photos, which already made him a unicorn. The date? Surprisingly perfect. We talked for hours. No awkward silences, no weird questions, no red flags. When the place started closing down, he offered to walk me to my car. It felt safe, normal, easy. Then things started accelerating. Second date? He took me to this rooftop bar with a string quartet playing and brought me a scarf, because I mentioned I get cold easily. Third date, he cooked for me, like full candlelight, playlist, homemade lasagna kind of energy. Fourth date, he booked a weekend getaway at a cabin in the woods. I declined, not because I didn't want to go, but because something in my gut was saying, slow down. Zane laughed it off, said he respected my boundaries. And yet, the very next week, he showed up at my job with a bouquet, said he happened to be in the area. The thing is, I hadn't told him where I worked. That's when my gut started screaming. I played it cool, thanked him, and tried to laugh it off. But inside, I was uneasy. It was all too much, too fast. So that night I sent him a message saying I wanted to take a little space, that I liked him, but it was moving quicker than I was comfortable with. That's when everything flipped. The reply came fast. "You're just like the others," he texted. Then a voice memo followed. Rage-filled, unhinged. He was yelling, screaming about how I used him and led him on. I blocked his number. The next morning, I had 32 missed calls, 2 voicemails from private numbers. My Instagram DMs were flooded, some begging me to call, others calling me disgusting names. He even found my Pinterest somehow. Who uses Pinterest for stalking? Over the next week, Zane sent me PayPal requests demanding I reimburse him for every date. He listed out the costs in the notes. Appetizer, $12. Charcuterie board, $18. Emotional trauma, priceless. I blocked every new account he made. Then, one night after my waitressing shift at Copper Owl, I got home just after midnight. Exhausted. I went to unlock my apartment and froze. The door was already open, not wide, just barely cracked, like someone had nudged it shut without letting it latch. My heart dropped into my stomach. I backed away slowly, fumbling for my phone. I called my best friend and made her stay on the line while I stepped inside, whispering hello like a horror movie cliché. The lights were still off. Nothing looked stolen, but something was off. Then I walked into my bedroom. There, placed dead center on my pillow, was a single photo. A printed picture of me. Not a selfie. Not from social media. No. This was me, walking out of my building 2 days prior, taken from across the street. No filters, no cropping, just raw surveillance. On the back of the photo were 3 words. "You ruined everything." I dropped it, ran straight to my friend's place across town, and didn't sleep a second. I went to the police the next morning, shaking as I explained everything. The messages, the gifts, the unexpected visit at work, the threats, the photo. Thank God I saved the voicemails and screenshots. They took it very seriously. Turns out, Zane's real name wasn't Zane. His entire profile, fake. The job, a lie. The dog, random stock photo. He had a record of doing this to women, love bombing, isolating, then stalking them when they pulled away. I wasn't the first, but I was lucky enough to get out before things got worse. They arrested him that same week. He had a burner phone, multiple fake accounts, and a spreadsheet. Yes, a literal spreadsheet, with names, dates, and success rates for women he'd met online. I moved shortly after that, changed my number, went off social media for a while, and now, if someone's too perfect too soon, I run. So I've been single for longer than I want to admit. Not in a sad way, just life, you know? I used to clown on dating apps like crazy, especially Hinge. But after my buddy Kevin wouldn't shut up about meeting his now fiancée on there, I figured, whatever, I'll give it a shot. And surprisingly, it wasn't that bad. After a few awkward small talks and one dude who asked if I liked toes or tacos more, I matched with this girl named Alyssa, and immediately she felt different. We had the same weird taste in music, sent each other memes about raccoons stealing pizza, and somehow ended up trauma bonding over our mutual love-hate relationship with iced coffee. It was easy. Real. After a week of texting, we set up a dinner. Nothing fancy. Just this Italian spot about 15 minutes from my place here in Lakefield, Minnesota. Quiet, candlelit, smells like garlic 24/7. I was nervous but excited. Dinner went amazing. Alyssa was funny. Like, actually funny, not I laugh to be polite. Funny. She had this dry wit that made me feel like we were on the same wavelength. It didn't feel like a date. It felt like I'd known her for years. So we planned a second one. This time, she'd come over and I'd cook. I threw together my signature garlic chicken pasta. Sounds fancy, but it's really just YouTube and vibes. And she loved it. We shared a bottle of cheap wine and talked until my candles started burning low. She asked if she could see the rest of the house. I don't live in a mansion or anything, just a 3-bedroom ranch I bought last year. Still, I was proud of it. So I gave her the full tour. She lingered a bit in the hallway, smiled at my guest room, and made this joke like, this would make a cute office, which felt random at the time, but whatever. Eventually, she said she had to head out early, something about work in the morning, and we hugged at the door. Long hug, too, not just a goodbye. I texted her 5 minutes later saying I had a great time. No reply. I figured she crashed early or forgot to charge her phone. But then the night passed. The next morning, still nothing. By lunch, I was checking Hinge like an idiot. Message unread. That night, I called her. Blocked. That's when the math started mathing in a really ugly way. Still trying to be chill, I chalked it up to her ghosting. It sucked. But whatever. I'd survive. Then around 4 a.m., something woke me up. Not a noise, not a dream. Just this feeling, like I wasn't alone. I rolled over and almost ignored it until I realized my bedroom door was slightly open. I always close it. Always. Half asleep, I got up to use the bathroom. As I walked past the kitchen, I froze. Total chaos. Drawers yanked open. Cabinets wide. My silverware dumped out. It looked like someone had been frantically searching for something. My heart launched into my throat. I don't have roommates, no pets, and I definitely didn't leave it like this. Then I heard a creak. From the guest room. I didn't even think. I grabbed my phone and ran back to my bedroom, locked the door, and called 911. My voice was shaky, and I could barely string together what I was trying to say. Cops came fast, but the damage was done. They did a sweep. Nothing. No one in the house. But the guest room window was cracked open just enough for someone to slide through. Alyssa was gone. Her Hinge profile? Deleted. Instagram? Vanished. TikTok? In the wind. Like she'd never existed. I checked my stuff. My tablet was gone. A few watches, and $140 in cash I stupidly left in a drawer. But that's not what messed me up most. It was how well she knew the layout. She knew which room was the guest room. She knew where my kitchen was. She knew I lived alone. She knew where I parked. She didn't scope it out that night. She'd planned it before. And the hug? That wasn't "I like you" energy. That was marking territory. It's been months now. I filed the report. Told the cops everything. But they said without a real name or ID, there's not much they can do. I've changed my locks, got cameras, started sleeping with a bat next to the bed like some low-budget superhero. I still use dating apps, sometimes. But now, I never bring anyone home. Not until I know their last name, where they work, and whether they have any active restraining orders. Because trust, that stuff doesn't come free anymore. This happened during my second year of college, when I was 20 and still stupidly optimistic about people. It was a boring Thursday night at our off-campus rental in Northern California. Just 5 girls in sweatpants, too much Red Bull, and way too much time to kill. One of my roommates, Ari, dared me to finally download Bumble, which I'd avoided like the plague. I gave in, handed her my phone, and let the chaos begin. They took turns swiping, reading bios out loud, roasting guys' photos, and cackling like we were on some dating app game show. It was harmless fun until we stumbled on Eli. His photos weren't cringe. He had messy curls, a cute dog, and he wasn't flexing in a gym mirror or holding a fish. That already made him top tier. Ari declared, "He looks safe," which in hindsight might be the dumbest sentence ever spoken. So I messaged him. He replied within 10 minutes. Funny, casual, and didn't use the word vibes once, which is rare. He said he went to our college, was into photography and environmental science. He seemed normal. I wasn't looking for anything serious, just something fun. He asked if he could swing by and say hi. Now before you roll your eyes, let me explain. I didn't invite him over alone. There were 5 of us in that house. We were wide awake, all hanging out in the living room. So I figured, what could go wrong? I gave him the address. 10 minutes later, a silver Civic pulled up. We peeked through the blinds, and yep, it was him. Looked just like his photos. That almost never happens. He walked up to the door, and I opened it, expecting a casual hello. Instead, the second he stepped inside and saw the full house, me plus 4 other girls, his whole face changed. Not in a shy guy way. In a, you just caught me off guard, and now I'm panicking way. He mumbled something about forgetting he had a paper due and literally turned around and bolted. Like, full 180. Gone. We all just stood there blinking at the closed door. I unmatched him on Bumble the second it shut. Creepy, sure. But maybe he was just socially anxious or something. I forgot about it until 2 days later. That's when Eli added me on Instagram, then Snapchat, then sent a Facebook friend request. I hadn't given him any of those. The name was the same. The profile picture matched. He somehow found all of them. Curiosity got the better of me, and I accepted one of the follows. We started chatting again, but something was different. The chill, funny energy he had before, gone. Now he was snarky, passive-aggressive, saying stuff like, "Oh, so you only talk when you feel like it?" Or, "You think you're better than me because you're in school?" It was a hard left turn. I deleted and blocked him on everything. Thought that'd be the end. It wasn't. New follow requests started rolling in. Random usernames, no profile pics, but always some weird variation of Eli. At least 3 different Snap accounts tried to message me. One said, "You can block me all you want. I know where you live." That made my stomach flip. I screenshotted everything, told Ari. We all agreed it was creepy, but probably just empty threats. A few days passed. I tried to brush it off and focus on school. But then came the moment that still lives in my brain rent-free. I was coming home late from a lab, past 9:30, headphones in, arms full of textbooks, and noticed a car parked across the street from our house. Engine running, lights off. Didn't think much of it. College town, parking's always trash. Until I reached my front steps. I heard the car door slam shut. I turned, and there he was. Eli, marching toward me like he owned the sidewalk, face twisted in some storm of emotion I couldn't read. I froze. He didn't yell, he didn't smile. He just grabbed my wrist, hard, and started pulling me toward the sidewalk like we just had a fight and he was taking me home. It wasn't a scene, It was like he wanted it to look normal. I was screaming, fighting him, but he just kept saying, "Stop making a scene. Stop making this harder than it needs to be." And I swear, if our neighbor, Devin, hadn't come outside right then, I don't know what would have happened. Devin is this 6'4" linebacker who lives across the street, and thank God he's a night owl. The moment he shouted, "Hey!" Eli dropped my arm like it burned him and sprinted back to the car. Tires screeched as he peeled off. I filed a report the next morning with campus security, and then with the actual police. And that's when I learned the final twist. Eli didn't even go to our college. His name wasn't even Eli. He had no connection to the school. He'd made it up. And now he had my address. I moved out that semester, transferred to online classes. My roommates were supportive, but the fear never really left. Every time I hear a Civic engine pull up, I look over my shoulder. And to this day, I don't answer DMs from strangers, especially the ones who look safe.